Okay, so next disease that we will cover in these lectures are caused by adenovirus. So adenoviruses are non-analoged double-stranded DNA viruses. Another important thing regarding adenovirus is that this particular adenoviruses are replicated inside the nucleus, and due to the replications inside the nucleus, they produced very characteristic inclusion bodies in nucleus. This particularly Adenoviridae family have total 5 genus. Here you can see these are the 5 genus of this Adenoviridae family. And another important thing in regards to birds, that out of these 5 genus, these 3 genus are important, which are responsible for disease in birds, right? So among 3, again this AV adenovirus are very important because they produced two important disease, including body hepatitis and hydropericardial syndrome. Some other disease like quill bronchitis virus, gizzard erosions are also caused by this AV adenovirus. Then this adenovirus are responsible for disease like hemorrhagic enteritis, marble spinal disease, and splenomegaly, while eta adenoviruses are responsible for egg drop syndrome in layers birds. This particularly, here you can see there are some, you can see this is old classification and this is new genus, right? So in past, these avian adenoviruses are grouped into group 1, group 2 and group 3 avian adenoviruses. But in new classification, here you can see this group 1 avian adenoviruses are kept in AV adenovirus genus, group 2 are kept in adenoviruses, and group 3 are kept in adenoviruses. Okay, then another important thing regarding this AV adenoviruses is this AV adenoviruses they have total 5 species, right? So based on these molecular studies, this AV adenovirus they have a total 5 species, and they are known as fowl adenoviruses A, B, C, D, and E, right? So total 5 species, and this particular 5 adenoviruses have total 12 serotypes which are responsible for disease in birds. Okay, so with this introduction, we will start our first adenoviral infection, inclusion body hepatitis. So there are two, this inclusion body hepatitis and hydropericardial syndromes are more or less similar disease. Different serotypes are involved in such type of disease, but generally their clinical outcome are almost similar. The clinical signs are almost similar. Even the gross pathology are less or more similar, right? And in many textbooks they are given as a single entity, including body hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome or simple hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome. But in our MSV 2016 they are kept as a separate entity. So here we will discuss in separate manner, right? So first we will see regarding inclusion body hepatitis. So this inclusion body hepatitis is an adenovirus infection characterized by hemorrhage as well as some dystrophic, necrotic, hemorrhagic changes in liver, kidney, and as we have already discussed, when this virus are replicated inside the nucleus, it will produce characteristic intranuclear inclusion body. So etiology of this virus, we have already discussed, they are actually adenoviral infection, but among more specifically, particularly fowl adenovirus species D and E, and most importantly the most common serotypes which are isolated from this inclusion body hepatitis are serotype 2, 8A, 8B, and 11. These are the three most predominant serotypes which are found in inclusion body hepatitis: serotype 2, 8A, 8B, and 11. Right. So this fowl adenovirus D and E are double-stranded DNA virus, belongs to genus AV adenovirus and family Adenoviridae. Okay. Now host. Domestic fowls and chickens are primary host for this fowl adenovirus D and E, species D and E. And generally, you will find 10% mortality in growing chickens between 3 to 15 weeks of age. Majority of this mortality are seen, or they are most frequent between 4 to 8 weeks of age. Then transmission. These adenoviruses are actually transmitted vertically as well as horizontally. Particularly, embryonated eggs contain this virus in embryo as well as in yolk, as well as in albumin also. So this vertical route of transmission is most important for transmission of this disease, as well as this particularly virus are also transmitted horizontally because majority of the excretions containing these viruses are most importantly feces, fecal oral route are most important route which are responsible for transmission of this disease. But among still, this vertical transmission is the main primary routes which are responsible for production of this disease. Now pathogenesis. So pathogenicity varies with the strain and enhanced by immunodeficiency, and this immunodeficiency are generally occurs when there is a co-infections of chicken infectious anemia virus infection or infectious bursal disease or any other immunosuppressive disease. If they are present, in that case generally you will find more severe disease. So here what happen, most commonly this virus will enter into the body through vertical route, but occasionally it may be enter through horizontal route. But in case of infectious inclusion body hepatitis, you will find vertical route is more important. So virus will enter into the body, and there will be primary replications occurs in nasopharyngeal intestine. So after this primary replications in the nasopharyngeal intestine, there will be viremia occurs, and through this virus will disseminated into the different part of the bodies, like the primary sites like hepatocytes, enterocytes, and the respiratory epithelial cells. And this particular virus will again replicate in that sites like hepatocytes, enterocytes, and respiratory epithelium. And when this particular virus will replicate, it will induce to some inflammation and necrotic changes where they replicate, right? So you will, due to the virus replications, you will find necrosis in hepatocytes, enterocytes, and respiratory epithelial cells, as well as they probably also damaged blood vessels. So ultimately you will also find hemorrhages. And when this particular virus will replicate inside the enterocytes, so ultimately it will excretate into the feces, and they become source of infections, and they will help in the horizontal transmission of the disease. Generally, in when there is some co-infections like chicken infection anemia virus, IBD, in that case this there will be more mortality, and many times you will find death of the birds. But sometime you will also find that immunity will be developed and bird will be recovered. But sometime here when these birds are get recovered in that time, generally infection become latent, and there are chances that this infection can be reactivated whenever there is a peak egg production produced. And due to this peak egg production there will be some stress, and ultimately at that time there will be reactivation of this disease occurs. Clinical signs. So incubation period is comparatively short. This is just for 24 to 48 hours, 1 to 2 days, right? You will find sudden increase in mortality. Generally you will not find very specific clinical signs, but suddenly you will notice some mortalities, and this mortality may be range from 2 to 10% of the flock. In some cases it may reach up to 30%, and generally mortality is generally start become peak at 3 to 4 days, and generally it will subside after 5 days. You will find significant mortality persist for only few days, just what we have discussed. Then overall feed conversion and weight gains are generally depressed. Birds will not take enough amount of food. Feed conversion ratio will also decreased. Then gross pathology. So all that we have discussed, this particular virus are replicate inside the liver, kidney, respiratory tract, as well as in enterocytes. So lesions are also limited to such organs only, and most commonly, name itself indicate inclusion body hepatitis, right? So here liver are prime target for this disease. So generally majority of the lesions are seen in liver. You will find pale, friable, swollen liver, and that will show some white foci, and these foci are nothing but they are actually area of necrosis, right? Because these viruses are replicate inside the hepatocyte, so ultimately to produce some necrotic foci. So you will find white foci on the pale friable liver. You will also find some petechial to achamotic hemorrhages, that liver and skeletal muscles. And generally, as we have discussed, if there is some secondary infections like chicken infectious anemia virus infections, or infectious bursal disease, in that case you will find the uh, gross pathology of that particular disease. Like in case of chicken infectious anemia virus, what we have discussed, we will find typical atrophy of the thymus, as well as the bone marrow become there will be loss of red color of the bone marrow, and they are entirely replaced with the fatty tissue. Like IBD, in infectious bursal disease, you will find enlargement of bursa in initial days, and slowly become hemorrhagic, and lastly it will get atrophied, as well as you will find some hemorrhage in the different tissue, right? So depending upon the secondary infections or concurrent other viral infections, you will find variety of cross changes in the birds. Here you can see this particular livers are become slightly enlarged, as well as they are showing typical white foci, right? This is right at these white foci are nothing but they are actually necrotic tissue, as well as you will also find some hemorrhage, and many times these hemorrhages are covering the necrotic foci. So here this is a multifocal to coalescing necrohemorrhagic hepatitis. Here also you can see this majority of the liver tissue are showing hemorrhage as well as necrosis. You will find white spots, right? And they are covered with the hemorrhagic tissue, so hemorrhagic as well as necrotic hepatitis. Here you can see these muscles are showing hemorrhages, right? And depending upon the secondary co-infections with other viral disease, you will find variety of changes in the birds. Here you can see this is a little bit intermix of hepatitis cytopericardium syndrome. Here you can see this is comparatively normal birds, while this is affected birds. Well, you can compare this color of the liver. They are comparatively very pale, as well as you can see this is some hydropericardium, accumulation of fluid in pericardial sac. Now microscopic lesions. So microscopically you will find diffused hepatocellular degeneration and multifocal necrosis, because these viruses are replicate inside the hepatocytes, and ultimately will produce such type of changes. It will induce necrosis and degenerative changes. Most importantly, in all adenoviral infections, you will find intranuclear inclusion body in hepatocytes. You will find some lymphocytic infiltrations, and probably you will find very little amount of neutrophils. And many a time, this particularly lymphocytic inflammations may progress into the granulomatous inflammations. You will find some accumulations of macrophage. Occasionally, you will find giant cells as well as fibrosis, and you will find biliary hyperplasia. Apart from liver, inclusion body can be also seen in pancreatic acinar cells, surface epithelium of the gizzard, and epithelium of the small intestine, because these viruses are replicated in this tissue also. So ultimately you will find lesions in such organs, right? So here you can see this is a beautiful picture. This is showing intranuclear inclusion body. This is very large, and they are characteristic of this disease, right? So diagnosis based on clinical signs. Again, this is not much specific generally. Gross and macroscopic lesion, whenever you find very pale, friable liver, in that case they are actually indicative of this disease, but still this is not confirmatory. You have to go for microscopic examination. If you find intranuclear inclusion body in liver, then they are very characteristic features and you can go for this diagnosis. For confirmation, you have to go for either immunohistochemistry, virus isolation, or ELISA. So this is all about inclusion body hepatitis, but next we will see very related disease. Okay, this is one another important thing that we have already discussed in lecture, that generally with inclusion body hepatitis you will find some common co-infection. First one is infectious bursal disease. We have already discussed much detail, right? Then there will be chance of chicken infectious anemia. They can also persist with the adenovirus infection. You will also find infectious bronchitis with this adenovirus infections, as well as some bacterial infections like Campylobacter jejuni are also responsible, or they are also can be present co-infections with the AV adenovirus. Now second one is hydropericardium syndrome. The second disease which is caused by this foul adenoviruses are hydropericardium syndrome. In some textbook they are known as hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome, because always hydropericardium is associated with the liver abnormalities. Majority of the clinical signs, cross pathology, microscopic pathology are almost similar with the inclusion body hepatitis, except generally mortality. In mortality you will find little more mortality percentage than inclusion body hepatitis, as well as lesions severity are generally again more than inclusion body hepatitis. So this hydropericardium syndrome or hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome is an adenoviral infections that affect 3 to 6 week of old broiler chicks, characterized by sudden onset with high mortality ranging from 20 to 70%, right? In case of inclusion body hepatitis, generally this mortality range are 10% and rarely it will reach to 30%. But in case of hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome, it may reach up to 70%. And most importantly, in this hydropericardium syndrome, name itself indicate, you will find accumulation of fluid in pericardial sac, right, along with the abnormality in the liver. So you will find hydropericardium, as well as you will find some friable livers with intranuclear inclusion in the body. Here, this hydropericardium syndrome is also known as Angara disease, because this virus was first time reported in 1987 at Angara. This particular place is present in Karachi, Pakistan, and due to the first time isolation in this particular area, Angara area, the name was given Angara disease. So etiology for this hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome or hydropericardium syndrome is foul adenovirus, belongs to species C, and majority of the time the serotype 4 are associated with this disease. Occasionally serotype 12 is also detected. The outbreaks which are occurs in India. So this foul adenovirus species C are generally responsible for production of this disease. This is double stranded DNA virus, belongs to AV adenovirus and family Adenoviridae. Majority thing will be remain same, just like inclusion body hepatitis, but in our MSVE 2016 these two entities are different, so we have to learn at a different entity. Host, generally 3 to 6 weeks old broiler chickens are most susceptible. Transmissions again same, horizontal and vertical, right? So here what we have discussed, generally vertical transmission, most important route of transmission of this disease. Generally embryonated eggs contain this virus in the embryo, in the yolk, as well as in the albumin, and generally they are whenever there will be hatching of the eggs, generally you will find generally infected chicks are hatched, and it will show some typical disease in young chickens. Fecal materials contain this virus and they become source of infection for other healthy birds. Pathogenesis will remain again same, right? Here also generally pathogenesis varies with the strain and enhanced by immunodeficiency as well as co-infections, what we have already discussed, like chicken infectious anemia virus, infectious bursal disease, infectious bronchitis, or maybe some bacterial infections. And depending upon these co-infections, their pathogenesis and the clinical signs and gross pathology will be slightly changed. But again, just pathogenesis will be remain same, just like including body hepatitis. Here also virus will enter into the body, and the primary replication occurs in the nasopharynx and intestine. Then you will find some viremia. Through this viremia, this virus will disseminate into the entire body. It will go into the secondary sites where they have some affinities like hepatocytes, enterocytes, as well as respiratory uh, epithelial cells of the respiratory tract. This virus will replicate inside the such cells and ultimately will produce necrotic changes as well as inflammations. And in particularly idiopathic syndrome mortality rate are comparatively high when we compare with the inclusion body hepatitis. If animal sorry if birds if they develop the immunity, in that case they will survive and it will recover. But as just like inclusion body hepatitis, whenever there is stress, particularly when the layer birds, when they reach to the peak egg production at that time, there will be again reactivation of this virus infection and you will find some disease. So clinical signs, again here also incubation period is not much longer, it's just 24 to 48 hours. But here when we compared with the inclusion body hepatitis, generally mortality rate is comparatively high. Here mortality rate can be go up to 20 to 80%, and generally we start at 3 weeks of age, peak at 4 to 8 days in week 4 and 5, and slowly that will be decline in the mortality rate. So it will show very typical, or you can say some sort of patterns of mortality. Okay, then gross pathology. Gross pathology are almost similar with the inclusion body hepatitis, except in case of hepatitis hydropericardium syndrome, you will find hydropericardium. Hydropericardium, hydro means water, and pericardium means accumulation of water in pericardial sac. So generally, what you will find accumulation of clear straw color fluid in pericardial sac. It may be up to 10 ml, and you can imagine 10 ml is very high volumes for particular birds. It will interfere with the normal heart functions, and due to this hydropericardium, you will also find pulmonary edema. You will find pale, friable, swollen liver, because this virus will also replicate in the hepatocytes, and during this replication it will induce degenerative and necrotic changes, and they are visible as a white foci in the liver. You will also find petechial to athymotic hemorrhages that involve liver skeletal muscles. In this hydropericardium syndrome, generally kidney lesions are a little bit more severe, as well as majority of these lesions are more severe as compared to inclusion body hepatitis, right? So here you will find enlarged kidney with the distended tubules that showing degenerative changes. Here you can see this is very much beautiful photographs that are showing typical hydropericardium. Here you can see this is pericardial wall, and this pericardium is filled with the straw colored fibrin rich fluid, and here you can see this is heart. So other majority lesions like liver lesions are almost similar with the inclusion body hepatitis, but additionally you will find such a hydropericardium lesions. Then macroscopically again same lesions will almost similar, just like inclusion body hepatitis. You will also find diffuse hepatocellular degeneration as well as multifocal necrosis due to viral replication. Intranuclear inclusion bodies have very characteristic features that will be seen in the hepatocytes and in some other organs like pancreatic acinar cells, surface epithelium of the gizzard, and in small intestine, because these viruses are also replicated in such tissue. Initially we will find lymphocytic infiltration, but occasionally it will convert into granulomatous inflammation. And again the diagnoses are based on gross and macroscopic lesions. Sometimes for confirmation you have to go for immunohistochemistry, virus isolation, or you have to go for ELISA. Then next disease which is caused by AV adenovirus or foul adenovirus is gizzard erosions. Name itself indicate they are responsible for ulceration and erosions in the gizzard. And majority of the cases, generally foul adenovirus serotype 8 are or 1. Sorry, they are 1 or occasionally 8 are associated with the gizzard erosions. Majority of the cases, foul adenovirus serotype 1 are associated with the gizzard erosions, but there are one report in which foul adenovirus 8 are responsible for gizzard erosion. In this gizzard erosions, generally gizzards are distended with the hemorrhagic fluid and contain multiple plaque patches within the coiling layers, right? So this is superficial layer of the gizzard, and if you examine under microscope, in that case you will find typical intranuclear inclusion body in this glandular epithelium of the gizzard. This gizzard erosion should be differentiated from some another entities, right? So gizzard erosions and ulcers in chicken have been associated with the diets that are deficient in vitamin B6, right? So whenever there is a deficiency of vitamin B6, you will find gizzard erosion. Or birds will also develop gizzard erosions when there is ingestion of histamine or gizzarocin or mycotoxins, or sometimes this Clostridium perfringens infections are also responsible for development of gizzard erosions. These gizzard erosions also have been observed at high rate in the embryos and chickens of the broiler. So this is we have discussed the disease which is caused by AV adenovirus. Now we will see the important disease egg drop syndrome, which is caused by adenovirus. Okay, so the next disease is egg drop syndrome 76. Egg drop syndrome 76. The 76 is nothing but this particular disease was first time reported in 1976 in the northern Ireland. So the name given 76, right? So this is actually year of isolation. In short, they are also known as EDS 76. So egg drop syndrome is a adenovirus induced disease characterized by decrease in egg production accompanied by production of pale, soft-shelled or cell-less egg by apparently healthy laying hens. Etiology. So duck adenovirus are double standard DNA virus, belongs to genus Adenovirus family Adenoviridae. We have already discussed there are total 5 genus in the Adenoviridae, and among that three particular genus are responsible for disease in birds. AV adenovirus we have already discussed, and now we will discuss regarding adenovirus genus, and here the important disease is egg drop syndrome, and this is caused by duck adenovirus type A. Now host, ducks and geese are natural host for this egg drop syndrome 76, but clinical disease has been reported in chickens, quails and geese. And clinical disease means decrease in egg productions, particularly at the time of peak, as well as you will also find some soft shell or cell-less egg in layer birds. Transmission. So here there will be both horizontal and vertical transmission occur, just like other adenovirus infection. This virus is transmitted both horizontally as well as vertically. What we have discussed in this foul adenoviruses, particularly AV adenoviruses are also replicate in the intestinal mucosa. But when we discussed particularly this adenoviruses are generally do not replicate inside the intestinal epithelial cells. So generally they are not secreted in feces. right? So generally fecal oral route are not important route of transmission, but occasionally what happen, this particularly sometime these fecal materials or droppings are contaminated with the exudate which is coming out from the pouch cell glands, and they are mixing up these materials, and ultimately you will find contaminated fecal material, right? So sometime, and due to this reason, fecal material may become source of infection for other birds, but otherwise this virus are not replicate inside the intestinal mucosa, and the presence of virus in the feces of laying birds is probably due to contamination with the oviduct exudate, right? So generally, most importantly, the vertical route of transmission is most important. And there are in this particular disease there are total three patterns are seen, among this pattern, first one is classic EDS 76 pattern. So classic egg drop syndrome 76 pattern, here what happen, when primary breeding stocks are infected, in that case ultimately they will transmit the disease to the offspring, so there will be vertical transmission. So generally these all aberranted eggs will contain virus, but they become latent until these chicks reaches to sexual maturity, right? So what it means, generally it will not show any type of clinical sign until they will reach the sexual maturity, and which time the virus is excreted in the eggs and droppings infecting susceptible contacts, right? So ultimately at the time of peak productions, generally there will be reactivations, and it will become source of infection for other healthy birds. In endemic pattern, there is a result of horizontal infection in the flock during lay, and sporadic EDS 76 pattern due to either direct contact with the domestic ducks or geese, or more often to use of water supply contaminated with the wild fowl droppings, and ultimately they contain some viruses, and there is transmission of this disease, right? So there are total three important patterns, but among all this classic EDS 76 is most important. Now pathogenesis. So here, most importantly, virus are enter into the body through vertical route. So virus will enter into the body. Primarily, this particular virus will replicate in the nasal mucosa, and after initial replication in the nasal mucosa, it will reach into the other lymphoid tissue, particularly in spleen and thymus, and this virus will replicate inside the such tissue. And after initial replication in the lymphoid tissue, this virus will reach into the oviduct. Oviduct is a prime target for this EDS 76 virus, particularly this duck adenovirus A. And among this oviduct also, this pouch cell glands which are responsible for secretion of calcium is again prime target, right? So this some or less entire oviduct is affected, but most common lesions which are seen in oviducts are generally this is seen in cell glands, pouch cell glands, which are responsible for secretions of cells overlying hard calcium structures, right? So here this virus will replicate in the pouch cell glands and ultimately produce severe inflammation at the site, will also induce some necrotic changes, right? So due to this reason there will be no proper secretion of the cells, and you will find some abnormality in the cells. So initially when there is the starting of the infections, you will find slightly rough cell egg, and slowly when the disease become more severe, in that case there will be no proper secretion of the cells, and you will find either soft cell or cell-less eggs. And due to this reason, this particular virus will also probably infect other organs, and due to all this reason the egg production will be decreased. Now clinical signs, general incubation period is ranging from 7 to 17 days, and the egg drop generally occurs at their peak, or sometimes there will be no achievement of their peak productions, and these drops may be 5 to 50% of the total production capacity, and it may last for through 3 to 4 weeks, right? But in some recent report, they also said that generally at the later stage, when the animal has become recovered from this infection, generally there will be some compensation of this lower production, and there will be comparatively there will be little loss with this disease. Generally, the first signs in this infection is there will be egg cells pigment color will be changed. Egg cell color or the pigment will be slightly decreased. So ultimately there will be change in the egg cell color. And slowly when this particular pouch cell glands are get affected, in that case, slowly you will find either thin celled, soft celled or cell-less egg. Now gross pathology. So here generally in majority of these internal organs are not much affected except oviduct and ovaries and spleen, right? So here in particularly oviduct, most importantly the pouch cell gland is the main target where you will find some edema and you will find also some folds, or you may find some layer of exudate that cover the pouch cell gland. You will also find some splenomegaly. Particularly you will find majority of these follicles become flaccid or they become inactive, and due to this inflammation of the oviduct, many a time this ova will fall into the coelomic cavity and they are responsible for production of egg peritonitis, because when this yolk is not catched by infundibulum, it will reach into the coelomic cavity and they will provoke some granulomatous inflammation and it will be responsible for egg peritonitis. Right, here you can see this is a picture of different abnormal eggs. This is comparatively normal. You can see this is thin shelled egg, and due to this thin shelled, this is get easily ruptured. You can say almost this is cell-less egg, right? So variety of the changes can be seen with the egg drop syndrome 76. Microscopically, as we have all discussed, this particular virus is replicate inside the pouch cell gland epithelial cells. So ultimately we will find intranuclear inclusion body in the epithelial cells of pouch cell gland. When this virus loads are more severe, in that case you will find sloughing of the epithelial cells into the lumens, and as well as you will find also marked infiltration of the inflammatory cells like neutrophils in the lamina propria, as well as you will also find mucosal edema, and in some cases you will also find infiltration of macrophages, plasma cell lymphocytes in lamina propria. So diagnosis based on the clinical signs. Whenever you find a decrease in egg productions, particularly at the time of peak, they are indicative of this disease, but again this is not much specific. Grossly, the lesions are not indicative of this disease. Macroscopically, if you find intranuclear inclusion body in the pouch cell gland epithelial cells, then they are indicative of this disease. For confirmation, you have to go for PCR or some serological test like virus neutralizing test, heme agglutination inhibition, immunofluorescence, or ELISA. This particularly egg drop syndrome 76 are found in most of this country except USA and Canada. Okay, the next disease which is caused by adenovirus are turkey hemorrhagic enteritis. Right, so name itself indicate this is a disease of turkey, and here the target organs are intestine. Hemorrhagic enteritis means they are responsible for severe hemorrhages in the intestine. So this turkey hemorrhagic enteritis is an acute viral disease of turkey. Most importantly, 4 weeks of age and olders are mainly susceptible for this viral infections, and this is caused by turkey adenovirus A or turkey adenovirus 3 genus cyadenovirus, right? And they are characterized by depression, bloody dropping, and death. Definitely you will find bloody dropping because name itself indicates this is hemorrhagic enteritis, right? So you will find hemorrhage and inflammation of intestine. In acute cases, there will be sudden death may occurs in the flock over 5 to 10 days period, and the tail feathers, the feathers around the vent are stained with the blood, and many a time when there is severe hemorrhagic enteritis, when ample amount of blood is lost in the intestine, in this case entire carcass become pale in color, they become severely anemic. The carcass of the bird, the die of the conditions are pale because of blood loss, and the intestine is full of blood and mucosal debris, and invariably involving the duodenum. Duodenum is a main target for this hemorrhagic enteritis, turkey hemorrhagic enteritis disease, and sometimes they are extended up to the cecum in severe cases. Spleen are also involved in this case. You will find some enlargement in spleen, and microscopically you will find intranuclear inclusion body, particularly in lymphodaticular cells. You can see this is microscopic picture, and here you can see this is typical intranuclear inclusion body, and this blue lining are nothing but they are actually chromatin material which are get marginated. Here also you can see this is marginated chromatin and intranuclear inclusion body. This all red cells are actually RBC. Okay, the next last disease which is caused by adenovirus are marble spleen disease of pheasants. Okay, so this disease is characterized by sudden mortality, and this mortality may range from 2 to 20% of the flock, which may be extended over the period of 10 to 14 days, and sometimes this flock mortality may approach up to 100%. Okay, this disease is caused by Turkey adenovirus A, genus Cyadenovirus, and this is most commonly seen in birds between 3 to 8 months of age. The birds, in this case, clinical signs, generally what you will find that birds are apparently die from asphyxia, and this asphyxia is caused to pulmonary edema. And most importantly, why the name given marble spleen disease? Because these spleens are most commonly involved. You will find multifocal toccoling necrotic foci that particularly involved spleen and lymphoid tissue, right? So due to this necrotic foci, you will find whites or gray foci, or the gray foci over the spleen, and there will entirely change in the color of the spleen. So the name given marble spleen disease. Like Turkey hemorrhagic enteritis, here you will not find any type of intestinal hemorrhages. Right, so intestine are not affected, only lungs and spleen are affected. So you can see this is very characteristic features of this marble spleen disease. You can see this is spleen, and this all white foci are nothing but they are actually necrotic area, right? So due to this necrosis, that there is change in colors, and due to this mixture of this white and reddish discoloration, they are look like just marble stone, right? And due to this is the name given marble spleen disease. Okay, so this is all about adenoviral infection. Thank you.